I think this project is snake bit. I'm Joseph, and this is Input English. Today we're fortunate to have a beautiful day, so I'm out in the park, but I still wanted to talk to you about something interesting and something actually related to this park. I have a problem. It's not a big problem, and it's not a problem unique to me. The problem is I need to get more exercise. Over the past few months, I've been doing a lot of things that consume a lot of my time, and I haven't gotten much exercise. I recognize this, I've been thinking about it, and so I devised a plan to get more exercise. There are lots of ways to do that. One of the ways I got exercise in the past was by swimming. When we lived 30 miles from here in Morgan Hill, we had a membership to a gym that had a nice indoor pool and a lot of very good workout equipment. I would go regularly to that gym and swim laps, and then I would use the stationary bike for spinning. Both swimming and spinning are excellent ways to get aerobic exercise. Decades ago, I used to run long distance, but I don't really want to subject my joints to the stress of impact from lots of running. I think there are better ways for me to get exercise. I don't regret running when I was very young, but I don't choose to do that now. Walking is another good way to get exercise. The basis for my opinion that it is necessary for me to get more exercise actually comes from experts. Experts in the field tell us that adults should get at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise 5 days a week. Then they go on to explain that if you get more exercise, the benefits continue to increase. You might wonder, what is moderate exercise? The experts provide us a benchmark for that. If you are walking briskly and you can talk to someone else, that is probably moderate exercise. If you are engaging in moderate exercise, you would not be able to sing. You wouldn't have enough air reserve to sing. But talking would be within your capabilities. So that is a way to apply criteria to determine if what you are doing is moderate exercise. Then you might ask, what is strenuous exercise? Using those criteria I just shared with you, if you cannot sing and you cannot carry on a conversation, then that would be considered strenuous exercise. If one chooses strenuous exercise on a regular basis, the recommendation is that you don't need the 30 minutes each day. 15 minutes of strenuous exercise 5 days a week is plenty. Again, I don't really choose strenuous exercise. I would prefer moderate exercise. There are lots of benefits to our physiology created by getting regular exercise. So based on my knowledge of those benefits, I choose exercise. I just need to find the time for it. Additionally, I want the exercise to be enjoyable. One of the things I learned or relearned during my efforts to learn languages is that I do better if what I am doing is enjoyable. If it is no fun, I'm less likely to do it. I started out with a statement that perhaps this project is snake bit. So what's that all about? If something or someone is snake bit, that expression is a casual expression. You could consider it slang. If something is snake bit, it is doomed. Now, this reference to snakes is a very old one. Historically, before modern medicine, if someone is bitten by a poisonous snake, the likely outcome is a slow, relentless death or severe illness. In other words, it's not a pretty picture. And before modern medicine, there wasn't much treatment available. Being doomed by a snake bite was an unfortunate plight for people. In the United States, we have 4 different species of poisonous snakes. We have rattlesnakes, cottonmouth water snakes or cottonmouth water moccasins. We have copperheads, and then we have coral snakes. As I recall, coral snakes are distributed mostly in the southeast. Of the 4, the coral snake is the least likely snake that we would see in the United States. To give you a perspective, I've seen lots of rattlesnakes, lots of cottonmouths, lots of copperheads, and I've never seen a coral snake in the wild. Of those 4 snakes in the United States, 3 of them, all except for the coral snake, are called pit vipers. Vipers have specialized teeth in this corner location that are hollow. These fangs or specialized teeth deliver toxins, that is the venom, to the victim of the bite. So with all of that, I've painted a picture for you of what being snake bitten is. So what is snake bit? Well, a lot of times when we use casual expressions that are common in American English, the grammar may be a little different than correct. The grammar might be a little odd, and it's done for casual stylistic reasons. You could say that some project or some person is snake bitten, but you're as likely, or perhaps even more likely, to hear someone say, oh, he was really snake bit. Yes, American native English speakers sometimes use poor grammar. If something is snake bit, we're using incorrect grammar, but it's part of the language. It's part of the casual speech that people use. Now, I tell you this as a story, not hoping that you will memorize it. That's not the point. I want you to understand, not memorize. We don't memorize things on this channel, at least I don't. So what is this project that I have told you is snake bit? Well, behind me there is a bicycle. There you can see this bicycle. The words printed on the frame are clearly Bike Friday, and it's a little bit unusual. If you compare this to other bicycles, you would notice that the wheels are small. The whole bike is relatively small. Those wheels are only 20 inches in diameter. Right behind the crank are some fittings that allow one to fold this bike. This is a folding bicycle. I got this bike years ago. We had a sailboat at the coast in Santa Cruz, and we also had a travel trailer. And I figured it would be convenient to have a folding bike so that I could use it when we are using the boat or the travel trailer. I only bought one because my wife was not very interested in a folding bike. I was the one with the enthusiasm, so I bought this Bike Friday. It's made in the United States, it's very high quality, and it's kind of an interesting bike. Of course, when I rode it for the first time, I compared it to my recollection of other bicycles that I have ridden over the years. It took a little getting used to. The small wheels don't give you a sensation of stability, so it took some getting used to. I rode it a lot, but I have not ridden it much in the past 10 years. So in 2024, when I started this YouTube channel, I made a video about changing the tire and inner tube on this bike. As early as 2024, I was thinking about resurrecting this bike so that I could get more regular exercise. I used that as an opportunity to make a video. That went fine, but the project to resurrect this bicycle stalled because I kept putting off the other step, which was to change the rear tire. It's a little more difficult to remove the rear wheel, but it's not really difficult. I was just procrastinating. I just kept putting it off. So a year passed, and then another 6 months passed. I had changed one tire, and I had the other tire and inner tube ready to go, but I had not changed it. Toward the end of 2025, I said to myself, enough is enough. Put it on the schedule. I put it on my to-do list. Change the tire on the bike. Now, I already have a video showing how to do that and discussing all the terms that we use talking about bicycle tires, so there was no point in making another video. I changed the tire. This is a bicycle tire. This is the one I removed from this bike. And then you might ask, why did I remove it? It looks fine. The reason I removed it is that it was old. It was more than 15 years old. And we know that the rubber tends to deteriorate by oxidation when it is exposed to the air over a long period of time. This tire that I changed didn't have any holes in it. It didn't have any visible defects, but I was concerned about reliability. It might fail when I was riding it, and sometimes I ride 10 or 15 miles away from the car. It would not be convenient to walk a bike back 15 miles, particularly if it's getting dark, for instance. So I figured that it would be worth the expense to change the tires to avoid that failure, that potential failure. With most bicycle tires, the tire itself is not the pressure chamber. That would be the inner tube. The tire captures the inner tube, but it is the inner tube that provides the seal. There are some products on the market that are tubeless tires for bicycles. Some tires are set up to not have tubes, but I've never had that type. All the bicycle wheels that I have ever had are equipped with a tire and an inner tube. Now, just like the tires deteriorate over time, being exposed to air, the inner tube undergoes similar deterioration. And it's the inner tube that keeps the air pressure. So for the same reason that I changed the tires, I wanted to change the inner tubes as well. Now, this is where my behavior got a little strange. I chose top-notch, excellent tires. But when I chose the inner tube, I just chose something and ordered it online. I wasn't paying much attention to the quality of the inner tube. I considered that not very important at the time. So I did put changing the tire on my to-do list. I changed the tire. I pumped the tire pressure up to the specification. I chose 45 pounds per square inch, and everything was great. I took it out to the street and rode it. I remembered that I had not really enjoyed riding that bike because of the small tires and the sense of less stability that it gave. But that said, I thought, I'll get used to it. I checked off changing the tire on my list. I was satisfied. I was satisfied until the following day when the rear tire turned out to be flat. The front tire maintained its pressure, but the rear tire has no pressure, even though I pumped it up to 45 pounds per square inch a couple of days ago. So what's going on here? I don't know. Something is leaking. It's not the tire, because the tire is not the pressure chamber. It's not the pressure vessel. It would be the inner tube. It could have a small hole in the inner tube, or it could be a defective valve. The valve that we use to put air into the tire may be leaking. Of course, this is the opposite of what I wanted when I started this project. I had chosen my inner tubes badly, and I no longer trusted them. So I went online and quickly ordered 2 new inner tubes. I would change the inner tubes again so that I would have good tires, good inner tubes, and a reliable bike so that I can be exercising throughout the rest of this year and beyond. The inner tubes came in 2 days ago, and as I looked at the box, I realized that they had sent the wrong size. The inner tubes were 20 inches in diameter, but they were too narrow. They were not made for this size tire. Oh, horrors, what do I do? And whose fault is this? Was it Amazon's mistake, or was it my mistake? Did I click on the wrong thing? I investigated, and the error was mine. Amazon makes it easy. I just went to their website, initiated the return sequence, and then dropped it off at a Whole Foods store and got full credit. They're not fussy about why the mistake was made. They accepted it, and I got full credit. I ordered the correct size, which will be in this afternoon. Within a day or so, I should be able to ride this thing with reliable tires. Now, in my discussion with you, I found fault with this little bike. You could say that this bike embodies design compromises. Design compromises are very real world. They're seen every day. If someone is trying to market a product, they may be trying to hang their success on low pricing. So then they would perhaps compromise the quality of the product, and that compromise will define how good the product is, how useful it is, and perhaps how popular it is. There are plenty of people who want cheap products, but there are also a lot of people who recognize that buying something that is very cheap could be foolish. That's what happened to me when I chose the inner tubes that I bought last year. I bought cheap ones. And what happened? One of them leaked. The design compromise for this folding bike is that it has to be lightweight and it has to be small enough that when it's folded, it's a convenient size to transport. That's why it has small wheels, and that's why it rides with such a funny feeling. It doesn't feel very stable to me. I thought back to bicycles that I've enjoyed riding over the years, and they tend to have bigger tires. If you ride always on pavement, then fairly narrow wheels and tires might be very good for you. Other people choose fatter tires, perhaps a mountain bike style, so that if they have to ride on uneven terrain or gravel, they're well equipped to do that. In my travels, I ran into some very interesting bicycles which I took an instant liking to. These were the bicycles I saw in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, the Dutch people ride bicycles as part of their daily routine. Oftentimes they ride bicycles to work, to school, to stores. They ride bicycles everywhere, and Amsterdam is very bicycle friendly. They have bike lanes, so they provide a very good environment for bicyclists. To my eye, the bicycles I saw in Amsterdam are not fancy. They don't appear to be the latest style. They didn't look like mountain bikes to me. I'm sure there are some mountain bikes in Amsterdam, but the typical bike that I saw in Amsterdam was called an oma-fiets. Now that's Dutch. We can take the words apart a little bit and understand it. Oma is an expression for grandmother, and apparently fiets refers to the bicycle. Oma-fiets is what they call these grandma bicycles with big tires, an open frame. They're easy to ride, and the riding posture is very upright. I thought that that would be a great bike for me to ride for exercise. I must admit, I'm not fond of pitching forward and having to extend my neck because the handlebars are low. Being of a certain age, I would prefer to be more upright and comfortable when I ride a bike. In parallel to putting this bike on the road, I investigated getting an oma-fiets. Bikes of that type are typically made in the Netherlands. I searched the internet and found a lot of dead ends. There was a company in Canada that was importing used bikes from the Netherlands to Canada. Then they were restoring them and selling them. But their website made it very clear that because of the tariffs that the current administration in Washington had placed on them and their products, they had no intention of exporting anything to the United States. So that door was shut to me. It was not an option. I couldn't find any manufacturers or sellers in the US that provided oma-fiets type bicycles. Then I found the Amsterdam Bicycle Company, and they provide those bikes. They're modern construction, but they are traditional design. Their website indicated that the classic oma-fiets is a ladies' bike design. And then as you read further, they stipulate that it's really unisex and that it is used by men and women in the Netherlands. One of the advantages of this design is the open frame is very easy to get on and off of. You don't have to swing your leg over the top of the bicycle. You can just step through the frame, and it's just easier. When I was a kid, there were strong social opinions about bicycles. Boys rode boys' bikes. Girls could ride boys' or girls' bikes. A boy riding a girl's bike when I was a kid had some explaining to do. It really wasn't socially accepted when I was 10 or 12 years old. Now, as an adult, I am completely unconcerned about those apparent social norms. When I choose a bike, I just want a bike that is good for my needs, for my purposes, and that is easy and safe to use. So I ordered an oma-fiets. It wasn't terribly expensive compared to other bikes that you would buy here in the United States. It was competitively priced. This bike has coaster brakes. That is, in order to stop, one pedals backward, and that applies a brake to the rear wheel only. That gets rid of the brake cables. That was great for me. I really wasn't a big fan of brake cables. I really enjoyed coaster brakes for just riding, for pleasure. This bike does have a 3-speed gear option that allows one to adjust the gear ratio in the hub, and that will be handy for climbing hills, for instance. I placed the order, and as I went down the specifications, I chose the frame size and the other features, including the color, and then it got to the point of shipping. I entered my shipping address, and their website applied the tariff. They put the percentage, I think it was like 7.5% tariff. The actual tariff was only slightly more than $100. The shipping was $100, so we were good. I'm fine with that. It was supposed to ship after the first of the year, and it was supposed to arrive perhaps next week. They were fairly non-committal as to when it would be delivered, and that to me was understandable because, after all, it has to make a trip across the Atlantic. It has to come through customs. It has to be transported across the United States, and then eventually it would find its way to my place. So, based on their estimates, I expected that bike to show up next week, maybe. To my surprise, it arrived this morning. It arrived in a big box with a very cheerful FedEx delivery man asking for a signature. I was at home at the time, so I was able to sign for it and receive it. It is currently in a big box in the living room. Now, on this Input English channel, I don't do unboxings and I don't talk about promoting products. I talk about things that are useful for comprehensible input. So, later today, I will open up the box, do a little bit of assembly, make sure the tires are pumped up to the right pressure, and bring that bike out to this park and ride it. It appears that that new bike, the Omafeets bike, arrived before the new inner tubes for this bike arrived. Now, I'm not going to get rid of this folding bike. It has some utility. I may use it to go to Angel Island and ride around on the island. It's lightweight, it's foldable, and it might be perfect for that trip to Angel Island in the spring. It'll be my spare bike. We have used this in the past as a spare bike when we had guests. So back to the original opening statement, I speculated that this project to get this Bike Friday on the road was snake bit. Eventually, I will get it serviceable and usable, and I will get some use out of it. It's a good bike, but as this all came together, it looks like my new grandma's bicycle will be my main bicycle that I will use during this year to get more exercise. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. You can hit the free subscribe button. I invite comments below. And if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.